Hello, everyone, friends of Markamen. Thank you for joining us today. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce a great lawyer and my friend, who I'm proud to call him my friend, an experienced Canadian immigration lawyer who has been, in the practice for over 35 years, David.
Well, actually, Maria, it's coming up to 43 years.
Oh, okay. So I got that information from internet. He's a member of the Canadian Bar Association and the Law Society of British Columbia, and he has offices in Victoria and Vancouver. So I had been receiving some questions about immigration, so many. I tried to summarize the best I could, because I understand each person is as different as each case, right? But thank you, David, for your time and for your generosity to helping all people who want to immigrate like me, right? Looking for a better life, better opportunity.
Delighted to help and advise on any questions you have, Maria, or any of your listeners. Sure.
Yeah. Well, the first question I have is, how does a person marital status affect their ability to immigrate to Canada in terms of financial cost, length of time needed, sequence, steps to be taken?
Right. That's a good question, Maria, because Canadian immigration, of course, is designed to help all family members come. And as a family unit, that is considered the two spouses and all of the children. So basically, if one person, one of the adult parents or one of the marital spouses qualifies, all of the other people qualify. So let's just look at the issue of who qualifies. Many times I get a request by just one person, oh, I have a family and, I want to emigrate. We all want to emigrate. When I look at the family or that person's background, I ask for the background of the spouses, both people. Who are you? What are your resumes? Because it's not necessary just the person who is emailing me, he qualifies or she qualifies. It is the partner or the spouse that I look at as well, because sometimes looking at the other spouse may open up another avenue for immigration, perhaps a much easier avenue, or perhaps that person is more qualified. So I always look at both individuals very closely to see how they can qualify for immigration to Canada. So having a spouse, having a partner, incidentally, anyone who has lived together with a partner for 12 months also will qualify. So common law partnership is recognized by Canadian immigration as being the same as marriage, provided that people have lived together for 12 full months. And so we have many common law partners who can immigrate. So I look at both of the individuals, and it really depends on their backgrounds as to what avenue will be chosen for immigration. So yes, having a spouse or partner is very, very useful to determine whether there will be more points available by way of the express entry system, or perhaps even if one of the partners is a Canadian, of course, it could be a family sponsorship, in which case then there is no emphasis on other qualifications such as English language test results or accreditation of degrees. It's a wholly different avenue for immigration. So I don't know if that answers the question generally, that spouses and their backgrounds is very, very important for the overall immigration. Does it increase costs? Well, it can increase costs, because just generally application fees for permanent residents for one applicant is $500 for the application, $550 for the application fee. So, you are looking at more costs marginally if we're looking at that type of application. So, it does cost more if you have a spouse or children, just from an application fee perspective. From an immigration lawyer's legal fee perspective, it is not that much more if you're including all of the family, all under one application. So that is how much it costs, and it depends on the avenue by which you want to emigrate to Canada.
David, and the spouses, well, or the parents can only bring minors with them, right?
That is correct. You can only bring minor dependents, and dependents are individuals who are under the age of 22. So,
22.
if you are considering individuals as part of the family, if they are close to 22, the application must be approved in principle before that child, at least the application must be made before that child turns 22. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, there are many European countries, and Canada has many international agreements with over 35 countries, whereby there are international experience class visas where youth between the ages of 18 and 30 can come to work in Canada. So sometimes we consider those as a way of getting people who are over the age of 22 to come and to work here if they qualify into one of those international agreements. I also recommend that perhaps there's a student visa that can be incorporated as part of the application if the person's over 22, because the person can come as a student and then create their own path for permanent residence, yet live with the family.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's kind of the second question I have. Let's say that a student comes to Canada from another country with a student visa, or some people come with a work permit, but the idea is they come only for a short period of time. And after completing their program, they want to stay in Canada.
Yes.
How will one go about this in terms of the same financial costs, length, needed
Sure.
steps to be taken?
Sure. Actually, I want to just give you a little bit of a backdrop to Canadian immigration here. When the Conservatives took over about 10 to 12 years ago, they changed the immigration rules here in Canada substantially, and they tied immigration to the economy of the country. And so they changed the immigration rules that way. As well, they decided they wanted a younger demographic, younger aged people to come to Canada. And so that made a lot of sense for youth to come to Canada to study here, because after they've studied, they are given 3-year work permits. And
everybody.
Well, I'm going to define who gets it, because it really depends on what university or college they go to, because this is a very, very important point. So point number one, students are encouraged to come to Canada, because that is how Canada is building up its future population. Because by the year 2035, there will be more deaths than births in this country, which means our population is reducing just because we're getting older. So the government's philosophy is to bring in more immigrants, more students, younger population, younger students to come into Canada between the ages of 18 and 30, because we're populating our country for the next 25, 50, 75 years. And what better way to do it than to bring in students, have them study here, they become accustomed to Canadian culture, Canadian systems, Canadian values, they can network with Canadian employers. After they graduate, they get 3-year work permits so that they can work. We're not like the United States where they can only work 1 year, then go back home. Here, we encourage students to stay, work in the economy which needs you, and then they are granted permanent residence through a whole group of avenues by which students and workers like that are favored. So it is encouraging for students to come internationally. Now, what I want to also stress, it is very, very important to go to the right college and the right university. Only those universities and colleges that are sanctioned and approved by the government of the province, for example, British Columbia, the obvious ones, UBC, University of Victoria, Royal Roads, Camosun College, many of these, and there are many, many colleges. If you go there and the individual completes a minimum of a 2-year diploma, 2 or 4 years, you can only in that case get the 3-year work permit.
Mm.
So I want to explain, there are many students who go to private schools, private colleges. They're not approved by the government for the 3-year work permit. Your listeners and your viewers cannot go to the wrong schools. They must always ask, can I get a 3-year work permit after I finish? Because I've had many disappointed people who go to these small little schools, they get a student permit and they think, oh, I've got a student permit. Well, much to their dismay, after they finish studying for 2 years or 3 years, they can't get a work permit.
Wow. And
And
they don't know until they finish their studies.
that's exactly
Wow.
right.
Big
So
disappointment.
always make sure when talking to the school, listen, it is very important for me to get a work permit after I graduate. Does your college qualify? And sometimes I would always advise, please consult with a lawyer or immigration lawyer just to understand, making sure that all of the money that you invest is invested wisely in the student permit, because at the end of it, you want to stay here. So very, very important. As far as cost is concerned, the cost for student permits is generally $150. That's a minimal cost, but it's usually the foreign student fees that cost a lot of money. If you go to a university or college, it may cost you $15,000 per year.
Yeah.
And the government wants to ensure that you have $10,000 extra set aside for your first year. So you can see it's very expensive, but when people say that to me and I say to them, look at it this way, that is your cost for starting a whole new life
That's
in a
right.
new country. And maybe spending $30,000 over 2 years or 35,000 is not a big expense when you think of the next 40, 50, a lifetime being in a new country. So
I agree.
that's a way to look at it.
Yeah. People ask me, and I said, I cannot give legal advice, but I can share my experience. And I can tell you that you need time and money.
That's right.
Because that's what I went through. What about people whose work permit had expired, or somebody also sent me a questions about they enter as a tourist. Maybe they are working in some kind of job that they get paid cash, but they want to stay here. What are their chances to stay in Canada?
Well, the first thing, Maria, that I want to say is that whenever a person comes to this country, they must abide by the immigration rules and regulations. You cannot work in Canada unless you have a work permit. Do not work in Canada under the table or secretly or in any way like that, because
Absolutely.
if you get caught working without a permit, you can be excluded immediately for over a year. You can be excluded if you misrepresent for up to 5 years. And it will be a very bad mark on your immigration record for any future application to Canada, because the immigration department never forgets. The information is always going to be on your file, and the first thing they will see is that you were working contrary to immigration regulations, and every succeeding application, if you can even succeed, will be very, very difficult. So please stay on the right side. Do not work on visitor permits. It is not possible to do that, nor should you do that. There are formal ways to obtain work permits, and the onus is on the employer to look for Canadians first before hiring foreign workers. Or there are some other ways where you can sidestep that, but the whole issue of obtaining a work permit, it can be easy, average, or hard, depending on your background, depending on your employer and how difficult the employer has in finding a Canadian. But there's also easy ways of obtaining a work permit if you are, for example, married to a Canadian. It is always important to get the right advice to determine which is the best method by which to get a work permit. So do not start working on a visitor permit. Sometimes people ask me, I'll come and visit and I'll find a job. Well, yes, you may look for a job, but you cannot work in that job until you have made that formal application. And in many cases, you have to leave the country and then re-enter if you find a job and you're approved. You have to cross the border again. And so with these COVID days, you have to be very, very careful on how you're crossing the border, when you're crossing the border, and what your situation is. So once again, legal advice should be sought before you look for a work permit or before you decide to start working, to determine, is this the best way for me to work in Canada?